Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay G. I'm the co-founder and editor-in-chief at Oneshi Press, and I am here to talk to you about 5 ways to get your work noticed by an editor. So look, you have worked really hard on making your project as great as possible, and now you want to get it published. Whether it's a short comic for an anthology, or like the ones that we publish at Oneshi Press, or a short story, a novel, a screenplay, really anything. You want to give your creative project the best possible chance of being accepted by the editor who's reading submissions, right? It's tough out there. It can feel like a labyrinth, which is what I have behind me. Sorry, I love that movie. Couldn't help myself. In the case of Oneshi Press, I am going to be the editor who is reading your submission. And as such, I'm kind of at the end of the labyrinth here. I'm where you're trying to go. So from me to you, I want to give you some tips on ways that you can really make yourself stand out from the crowd and get that editor's attention. So here we go. 5 ways to get your work noticed by an editor. Number 1, know who you are pitching to. Look, I have been on the other side of the submissions coin plenty of times. I've submitted lots of different things in different genres to many editors over the years. And I know that as a creator, it's really smart to cast a wide net. Send things to multiple publications. But, and this is a big but, each and every single pitch that you send out must be done carefully so that you are giving yourself and your work the best chance of working with that publication. That means that you need to actually know the publication. What are they looking for? How does your project meet their needs? How does it exceed those needs? What kinds of themes does this publisher look for, and what is their deadline? The point here is there's a lot of details to keep in mind for every single publication, and if you know each one when you're pitching, you stand a much better chance of catching that editor's eye. Here's number 2. Follow the directions. This is especially important for comics and other creative outlets that are particularly specs heavy, because with a lot of those specs come a lot of chances to mess up. And look, if you send somebody a submission that does not meet the standards they have set forth, they're gonna notice. So a lot of publishers have their own submission platforms that makes it almost impossible for you to get it absolutely wrong. For instance, at Oneshi Press, we have a submissions form that makes it very difficult for you to submit something that doesn't follow all of the rules. It's pretty rad, but not every publisher has a submission form like this one. Up until recently, actually, Oneshi Press just asked people to email us their submissions, and some people decided to do that without doing their research and without following our careful directions. And let me tell you, nothing, absolutely nothing says, "I don't know much about your publication, I'm just sending this to you on a whim," like not meeting the standards that I set forth in my very carefully written calls for submissions. And speaking of those, here are a few tips on how to follow all the directions in those calls for submissions. First of all, click all the links. Every call for submissions is going to lay out as much information for you as is feasible in that call for submissions, but there's a lot of little details that maybe don't fit in there. So if there are any links within the call for submissions that tell you to go here to find out how to do this, or there to find out how to do that, click those links. Read as carefully as you can. For instance, on our calls for submissions, we don't always have room for all of our technical guidelines or, everything that we want you to know before you submit. So we carefully link to a different page called Submission Guidelines. That page is also linked to very prominently on our homepage. So here's another one. Simultaneous submissions. So most folks are going to want to submit their work to more than one place at a time, and I totally get it. Turnaround times can be brutal, and who wants to sit around waiting to hear from one publication before you find out if another publication wants your work, right? But not every publisher actually allows this. So check the submissions guidelines very carefully for language about simultaneous submissions. And be clear with the person that you're pitching to about your intentions if someone else picks up your work before they do. Now, multiple submissions is a different thing. If you are submitting more than one project or pitch to the same publication, here are a few tips to make that easier for you. First of all, this goes with follow the directions. make sure that the publication you're submitting to is okay with multiple submissions. For some people, it may gunk up the works to have a whole bunch of things coming in from one person, so if you don't find any language about this in their call for submissions, try to get in touch with them and find out directly if they're all right with it. If they are all right with it, then follow the directions that they give you about whether to send submissions separately as, different documents or files, or all together in one big file. That varies greatly from place to place. And lastly, this is really more of a courtesy thing. Don't send like 1,000,000 submissions. Like, if you want to submit to someplace and they allow multiple submissions but they don't put a cap on it, it's best to stick to less than 5. I would say probably 3 tops is best, because generally, like an editor like me, I am reading a ton of submissions from a ton of people, and if I get like 20 from the same person, it feels like they're trying to monopolize my time, and my time, is pretty precious to me, as I'm sure yours is to you. So, pick your top best work that you think fits this publication the best, send those, but don't get overzealous, I guess is the best way to put it. Tip number 3 out of 5. If you have questions, get answers before you submit. So if you're not sure about something in the submission process, it is probably better for you to find out the answer than it is to just guess and send somebody something that you're not sure is going to work. Like I said, our time and your time is precious, so please don't waste anybody's. If you have a general question, try Googling it. If you're not sure about something that you read in a call for submissions, or especially if it is like a big deal publication where a lot of people over the years have submitted, Google it. See if you can find an answer to your question. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, and somebody may have already answered your question for you. But if it is a slightly more specific question that you don't think just random people on the internet are going to know the answer for, ask. Not every editor has a ton of time to field 1 billion questions, but if you really just can't find the answer to something that is, maybe particular to you or your project, find an email address or contact form and try to get in touch with the editor. Number 4, pitch it. No matter what kind of work you are submitting, and no matter what kind of publication you are submitting to, you are going to be one of many people. You have competition, and that means that you need to set your submission apart from somebody else's. So here are some tips on how to do that. First of all, pitch the project. Tell the editor who is reading your submission, in a few short and carefully crafted sentences, what makes this project great, why it fits the particular publication that you're submitting to, and what sets it apart from everything else out there. The pitch makes your project stand out from the competition, and it makes it more likely that the editor will open your attachment, read your script, and take your work seriously. But don't just pitch the project. Also pitch yourself. What makes you the right person for this editor to work with? Why are you the best person to tell this particular story? Why are you the best person to work on this project? This doesn't have to necessarily be like a list of your professional achievements. It can be really anything that sets you apart from the crowd and helps the editor get to know you. An easy way to do this is use links. You don't need to necessarily send a full resume or CV or portfolio, but we do want to know a little bit about you. We want to know about your other work, the kind of stuff that you're into. So if you have an online portfolio or a few examples of your work from elsewhere online, or even a social media link where you talk a lot about your work, send us that. We want to know who you are. Also, try to use the most appropriate links. If you are sending me your Twitter account, but you don't actually tweet anything about your work, that is really not helpful to me. I would rather see your portfolio or your website or a Twitter account where you do talk about your work a lot. Basically, what it comes down to is know yourself and your work. Know where it fits in, know where it stands out, and know why it's perfect for me, the editor. All right, now, tip number 5. Be professional. Okay, this is kind of a big one, and it's also a slippery topic because the word professional can mean a lot of different things, and sometimes it does get used to exclude certain groups of people, and I don't want to play into that nonsense, but I do want to address this topic, and I think the word professionalism is the best heading for it. So For me, what that really comes down to is communication. As the person who is pitching a project to me, it's on you to make it clear that you are going to be easy to work with, that working with you is going to be a pleasant process for me, and that I'm going to be able to communicate clearly and easily with you from the beginning to the end of the editorial and publication process. That means that you need to be responsive and responsible, that you are trying your best to understand my situation as an editor and work with me in the best interest of the thing that we are publishing. So the easiest way to do this is just be sure that you are communicating on a platform that is easy to get in touch with you on. All right? If you are emailing, be sure that you're using an email address that you check frequently. Especially when it comes to publishing deadlines, sometimes we're working up to the very last minute and we need to know that you're on board with us. So if I email you and I don't hear anything back, ever, even if it's just a line saying, hey, I got your email, I got back to you as soon as I can, even the tiniest little things make a huge difference to me because I know that you are invested in working with me. Professionalism, again, this is a slippery word, but truth be told, a little formality can go a long way. Sometimes, setting yourself apart with a casual tone can seem like the way to go in the moment, but the truth is, the editor doesn't know who you are until you tell them, okay? Even if you're a really big deal in your field, that doesn't necessarily mean that the editor you're talking to knows who you are. So it's just always a smart attitude to take of being, cordial, professional, and polite, as opposed to overly familiar. Another thing is, make sure that you check your pitch before you hit send. Look for errors like misspellings, copy and paste problems, and typos. I mean, everyone makes typos sometimes, I totally get that, but if the first correspondence that I get from you is riddled with typos, you're costing yourself points. I'm sorry. And this includes the project itself, by the way. If you're sending an attachment of a finished comic or something, please check over the project, the script, the PDF, the whatever it is, before you hit that send button. Don't send me a half-finished script. Make sure you're sending me the most updated version. Make sure that you've got a nice title on it. Don't send a working title as the title of your project. I'm not really going to want to open that up. Basically, just make sure that your project is actually ready for publication. Alright, so those are my 5 tips for how to get your work noticed by an editor, and I actually have one bonus tip. Follow those 5 tips and you'll earn yourself points. But if you follow this tip, you can earn yourself bonus points. Alright? Be a team player. Alright? If you want to be published by someplace, you want them to know that you're excited that it's them over any other publishing company, okay? You can do a little bit of sucking up. I am fine with that. If you want to tell me that you loved this other publication that we did, or that, our catalog is fantastic because of these 5 titles that you love so much, or if you want to start following us on social media and liking and sharing and tweeting and commenting everything that we do, I'm going to notice and I'm going to like that. Basically, the thing is, if you're working on a team publication like an anthology or collection, or even if you're working one-on-one with an editor, the truth is, most publishers, even the big guys, are working really hard. They are doing their best, and they can really use all the help they can get in helping to spread the word about what they're doing, especially when it comes to indie publishers like Oneshi Press and a ton of the other little guys. We need support. That's kind of a big deal for us. So if you, go above and beyond to show that you really support this publisher, and if you're on a group project, if you make it clear that if you are picked for this publication, you will help us promote the hell out of this book, I am going to notice that and I'm going to really appreciate that. Basically, show an interest in what I do, and I'm more likely to show an interest in what you do. If it makes my job, easier, and it makes you stand out from the crowd, that's the whole goal. That's what we're here for. So that's it. I want to thank you all for watching, and I really, really want to wish you all the best of luck. Publishers like me, editors like me, we are out here because we really want to see creative people do well. We want to show off your work. So work with us, understand where we're coming from, and we will do our best to do the same for you. I know that you are going to go ahead and make some amazing things, and personally, I can't wait to see them. So thanks so much. If you want to learn more about Oneshi Press and the anthology series that I curate and edit, go to oneshipress.com, that's ONESHI press.com, and go ahead and like and comment and follow below. Thank you so much.